Okay, and we are live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to IT Career in Australia live stream. And tonight's topic is the hidden qualities of the great software engineer. So, thank you so much for finding some time this evening to join our live discussion. Please make sure to introduce yourselves in the comments. Let us know what you do and join our conversation with your comments and questions. So, at least say hi so we know that people watching us and you hear. So, we know that we're not talking with the crickets. So if you're new to my live show, I'm Jana Martins and I've recently entered IT industry myself. So I'm passionate about learning more and also share my new findings with you on this YouTube channel. So tonight we're going to talk about the hidden qualities of the great software engineer, and Shan is going to demystify for us what skills you need to concentrate to succeed in software engineering career. So incredibly relevant topic. Please take or share it with your colleagues and friends who need to hear this and who obviously want to progress in their software career. So before I'll pass it on to Shan to introduce herself, I just want to quickly remind you, the usual things that we're going live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So to watch replays, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, IT Career in Australia. I'm going live there every Wednesday, except today. It's a special day today. But usually every Wednesday, 5:30 p.m. Melbourne time with various experts from my network. And we're talking about all the things like IT career, job search, and specifics of IT career in Australia. So you can join also my meetup group to make sure you get notifications about upcoming discussions. And also we'll try to answer all your questions from all the platforms, but just please stay on the topic. But make sure, ask as many questions as you want. So, and the most active participants will also receive a nice surprise at the end of the stream. So also please use this live stream as your opportunity, not only to learn new information, but network with people in your industry. So that's, enough of me talking. Cindy's here saying hi. Kay's here. Aloha. Brock is here. Hi, Shan and Jana. Brock is IT recruiter. Perfect. And thank you, Kay. Such a good idea. So Happy National Women's Day. Thank you, Brock. Exactly. Yes, I'm glad someone remembered about it. Yes, Happy International Women's Day for everyone who's listening to us as well. So, Shan, please just pass it on to you. Please introduce yourself.
No worries. So, hi everyone. So good to see everyone in the chat here, and so funny. Hi Cindy, I know you. And the best people on board here. But look, my name is Shan Kien. I am a program advisor at MYB. So my role is to manage the emerging talent programs that we have here. So that's the graduate program, but also our diversity program, which is our Develop Her program that focuses more around increasing more females into software development, which to Brock, happy International Women's Day. We are wanting to break the bias around that. So that's me. I've had over 13 years of recruitment experience. I've been a career expert, but the biggest thing and the reason why there's a massive motivator to talk about the hidden qualities is that I've had to challenge myself around what the mold of a software engineer actually looks like. And through these programs, I've learned so many lessons, and hopefully I'd be able to share it all with you today. So so that's basically me. And plus, I'm also a children's author to a book called Confident Coco. So that's also available online too. I just had to put that plug in because, that's it.
So make sure, it's always good, to mention all the things. Alice say hi as well. So yeah, guys, please, if you haven't had to say hi, make sure to say hi. And I'm actually gonna go and look at LinkedIn, because sometimes I feel like comments from LinkedIn not going directly to the chat. LinkedIn sometimes playing up, so I'll make sure I'll check it in a second. So Shan, obviously you already mentioned, about a bit of your experience, but I guess tell us a little bit more, program advisor, interesting role. Like what do you actually do as a program advisor?
Well, as a program advisor, I mean, there's a lot of programs that we manage, but I mean, the two core programs that we manage is really our protege program, and we call it a protege program, not a graduate program, because we want to be inclusive. And the reason for that is our graduate program is very different from other programs. We don't just look at computer science or graduates coming from a computer science degree, but we take on people who are career changers, those who have, learnt themselves in software engineering, and taking that and cultivating it. So part of my role is being able to enable these proteges. It's about building a curriculum of software practices that are considered very important within the industry, but also considered quite valuable within MYB. But it's more so engaging with mentoring and making sure the mentors are supported and enabling our proteges, which then our proteges then become mentors at the end. So it's creating all these programs that enable and foster learning and self-development as much as you can. And then on the other side, it's more so our developers nurturing our females to feel confident that they are fitting the mold of what the idea of a software engineer is, and giving them all the skills and all the tools that's required to make them successful. And that is also including a mentorship program. It's also including a curriculum that will enable and foster that confidence as well. So that is my role. It's really about coaching. It's about enabling. It's providing systems that really drive the capabilities of people to live their best selves in the career that they choose and a career that they've wanted for a very long time. So, yeah.
And are you all the programs mostly around the software engineering, or is it quite a broad spectrum of the programs?
Yeah, so at the moment, only software at this point in time, but we are going out to market and we're creating a new stream. And not only does it include software, but it also includes business analysts as well as product management. So that will come out later in the year, and I believe it will come out about April for applications. We're just working through what the experience is going to look like at this point in time. So yeah.
Perfect. We have a few comments coming up. Brooke saying, "Shameless plug. It's about your book."
It's about my book. 100%.
And Besh is saying, "Hi, Jan and Shan. I have to say, Confident Coco is a fantastic book for children. It's a Christmas hat." So here we go. So a bit of advertising of the Shan's book right here.
Love it.
Perfect. Kay saying, very interested your perspective on mid-career change, all the professional to software development. How does it fit into a program on organizations? I think we'll come back to this question in a bit. Thank you, Kay. So we'll just cover a little bit, the basics that we wanted to cover in the beginning, and then we'll start taking questions. I guess just give us a bit of an overview in terms of who is this great software engineer? Who's these people?
I think I want to share a quick story with people. I remember I was sitting on a call, face to face, like yourself and I, Jana, and I was talking to a tech lead who is a female, and she's absolutely amazing in what she does. And she said to me one day, she said, Shan, there's this expectation as I'm a tech lead that I'm expected to go home and code or sit on and do gaming, or I code outside of work, I code over the weekends. But in actual fact, I actually have other interests as well. But that doesn't make me look like I'm not a good software developer just because I have other interests. And what's really interesting about that conversation is that, inside our program, there are a lot of females who are mothers that don't really have that time to code inside and outside and all those things as well. But yet they're really wonderful software developers. And we can talk around what does, software developers, or what is a good software developer look like at the end. And that allowed me to really dwell into what we are typically mostly attracted to. And you've just opened up that slide there, and we can go straight to that. But typically we are attracted to these types of developers. And this is not to say that there are, this is not something that we should veer away from. But what I really want to talk around is that these personas or these characteristics is a variation to many other variations that we should consider. So if we talk about that typical software developer, there's that first typical software developer which focuses around being a passionate programmer. There's nothing wrong with that. We're really attracted to those who go to meetups, they're writing blogs, they're coding inside and outside of work. We are attracted to that. And, when we're in interviews, we're always kind of seeking those examples. To then that born programmer, that person that says, it's in my DNA. And somewhere, that could be a little problematic because, coding is a learnt exercise. And, happy to be challenged with that. But, it's in my DNA. I'm born to do this. There's the passion that kind of comes in, and that's fused within that as well. But then there's also that programmer that we're also attracted to, that last programmer that can pick up any type of language, that can go into an organization, just pick it up and be adaptive to any type of technology or language that's been presented to them. And these personas and these characteristics are absolutely wonderful. However, there are so many different variations to that, so many. And I think we need to be a little bit more conscious of how it's presented to us. And the reason why I say why we should be a little bit more aware is that constantly when we go into recruitment, and I'm gonna be real with you all, recruitment isn't fair. And the moment when we admit that, the more we will challenge ourselves to work through processes and a platform that can consider different variations as well, that can consider the best experience and can really fight that bias that we have. So the moment when we tell ourselves, look, recruitment isn't fair, but we are going to work as hard as we can to make it as fair as possible. And the reason why recruitment isn't fair is the fact that it's doused with our biases, it's doused with all the influences that we have, and what we see and what we typically see. But it's now a moment in time, and I'm sure a lot of people who are watching here, we are in a crisis at the moment. There is a war in talent, and every organization is looking for the same qualities, the same type of person. But we almost have to come together and work through what exactly is the characteristic that we need to be looking at that is going to allow us to pick out examples that are going to be a really great add-on to our organization and our culture and the technologies are here. And I think that's why, where I see career changes, where I see people that are going outside of the normal of that traditional learning path, that have shown me how amazing they are in software development, the way that they unpack problems and all those things as well. So that's basically where the learnings have basically come from. So yeah.
That's a great story, Shannon. Obviously, you pinpoint a few, main problems that happening in the industry at the moment. Like, yes, of course, like we want to look for this. Agree, we want to look for these like three personas because it's kind of like the go-to. It comes like it's the first things that comes to mind. We want someone who can pick up everything, solve any problem, and just be passionate about programming. But so the great point, like the market has been, quite competitive. People keep just poaching the same people to different organizations instead of look broader and think about what actual skills we're looking for, what actually we need for our organization and our particular circumstances. And I guess before we were like agree, like when we agreed to this live stream, we also ran a quick poll on LinkedIn. And to be honest, I just put like random skills in that poll, and I was curious what people to vote. So I ask people, what do you think the top quality of the great software engineer are part of technical and problem solving skills? So guys who's listening to us at the moment, please put it in the comments. Like, what is your answer? What do you think the top qualities of great software engineer, from your perspective? And you see, like, actually, majority of people voted from the options end user focus, quick learning facility, time management. No one choose can do attitude from the few people that vote. Okay. But also was a few great comments there from from Michael talking about, communication skills and his story, and also from Maria talking about empathy and human-centered design thinking. So, definitely, definitely a lot more things to think about rather than just, passion for programming.
Yeah. And look, there is a lot more, and I think a lot of people have a really good idea as to what that looks like. The biggest thing that I find is that when we start to challenge ourselves, what we're looking for and what exactly are the core skills, whether that's empathy, that's communication, those rooted skills that allow us to be successful. And we're talking about soft skills, and we're rebranding it to power skills, not soft skills, because they're actually really powerful stuff. The biggest thing is that once we do that, the diversity of thought and the diversity of creation comes into play. And what happens is that women and people of diverse race, diverse cultures will start to see themselves cultivating in that space. And then the form of inclusion then becomes much more alive. And the inclusion in terms of the way that we recruit, the representation in the way that we recruit, then becomes quite special. And that's where the hum of a team occurs. I mean, there were so many events about International Women's Day, and a really great mentor, Mike Breeze, spoke about the best teams that he's ever worked for is a team that's mixed with so many different types of diverse cultures, diverse genders, diverse race. That's where the hum happens. But it's got to be ingrained in the way that we hire as well. And that's why we have to admit every single time when we hire, is this the fair process? Is my judgment, is it being gleaned by my biases? And therefore having someone else inside that process is going to help challenge that a lot more. So, with that, there are some really great traits there, and we'll talk about that a little bit further. Yeah, very good.
So let's have a look what our audience thinks. The great traits of the software engineers. So Brooke is saying builder by mythology. Nicole, professional expertise. Naresh is saying vision and the requirements understanding. All of the above, yeah.
All of the above.
Communication skills and leaning, or maybe learning. That's probably typo. And Cindy saying +1 for empathy.
Yay. And look, I would say that empathy does play a big part, but I think it also is wrapped around some other parts as well. Without having empathy about the build of that product for the customer, you're not going to be building great, software, if that makes sense. But with the empathy for each other, is not going to be a great team, So I do believe empathy does connect us all in the way that we build products and in the way that we connect with each other 100%. So, yeah. But what does it look like?
Yes. So obviously we have so many skills to choose from. And I think a lot of these skills obviously easily can be transferred to any other positions. But I guess, Shan, from your experience, what are those hidden quality of great software engineers from your perspective? And I know we have this sneaky slide here that we can have a look. Yeah. Let's see, guys, if you guess any of the of ones that Shan is actually listed here.
Yeah, so let's see.
Let's go through them.
Go for it. So these are what I've basically had been able to see, and obviously there's a lot of variations because the audience really does have a good viewpoint as to some of the skills that they probably have seen inside the industry. But if we look at the core traits of a software developer, they possess all of these qualities that we see here, and these qualities can be tapped into various types of examples inside your recruitment process. So, if you go back to that, if we talk about a willingness to solve problems, being able to go deep, being able to ask those questions, and being energized when a problem comes to fruition. Then there's the second part, which is curiosity. We know that in technology and in this industry, it's forever evolving. Technologies and languages are updated every single moment, every single second. So having the ability to be curious and continuously learning and really mastering that craft is going to really enable you moving forward. Because if you're in an organization, you might be writing in a certain language, in 1 month, but then there needs to be a pivot and you need to adapt to something else. So that ability to be curious about what you're working on, the technologies that you're working on, is very vital. And then the third one is coachability. Now, the biggest thing about coachability, no matter what role you sit, whether you are a junior in your field or whether you're a senior, the ability to take on feedback and the ability to give feedback is the biggest thing. We all have blind spots in the roles that we possess. But if you have the ability to take on that feedback and be coachable and you can coach others, that's where, once again, I hate to be altruistic about this team because I love the cheese, but the magic kind of flows in when we talk about coachability overall, because nobody wants to work with not a nice person. Coachability is where it kind of comes through, and that's where growth comes through. And then lastly, we do live in a very young industry. And when we live in a young industry, there's also additional things that can be disrupted. And that is by having an individual, a software developer, that is interested in improving standards, improving the way that we work, improving the systems that we work, making it a little bit more easier, more simpler, and being able to ask those hard questions to make this industry better for what we are engaged in today, but for our next generation and our children to follow. So this is basically, my learnings, and this has been applied to every type of person that has come into the organisation, but more specifically inside the program. So towards the developers, I have, this is just an example. I have a protege currently. She's got 2 grandchildren, and she's decided at a later time in life to just start coding. Inside the program, I have, people who used to be physiotherapists, a pharmacist, a historian. You could be sitting next to someone who used to be a cybersecurity analyst, and all those things as well. Oh my goodness, it's
here we go. It's back.
But this is where we talk about, being able to listen to those core qualities so that you can derive a good recruitment process, to really adopt different types of people in the organization, because that type of thought, that type of life experience and background is going to be translated in the way that you write code, and in the way that you deal with people, and in the way that you ask questions, and having that inclusion for every product that you kind of develop, if that makes sense. And that's kind of what I've seen so far in my experience, and it's worked. And that's how we've kind of baked it into our processes overall. So,
and I guess, you already touched on it. How about we'll come back to Kay's question now, because Kay was asking, very interested your perspective on mid-career change, all the professional to software development. How does it fit to programs and organizations? So you just mentioned that you had someone, with 2 grandkids. And so, yes, what is your perspective like? Is it harder for these people? Is it easier? Is it a specific approach that they need to take? I guess what is your perspective?
Look, I think, everyone comes with different types of life experiences. And I think what's really important when you create a program of this nature or taking people on board is to educate your culture or your organization on what really inclusivity means. How do you nurture different types of people, and how do you nurture the different types of personas that come into play? Now, with regards to that, Kay, I will say that our program, this gives you an idea. We are very aware that when people come into our emerging talent program, our graduate program, that these people come from all different backgrounds and different learning skills and different learning journeys. So, for example, someone who has done 4 years of a computer science degree will potentially adopt and understand some concepts much faster, potentially, in comparison to someone who's just doing a 6-month boot camp. But what our program offers is that it's a curriculum that allows people to learn at their own pace in the first couple of months, learn at their own pace, and then go into teams and see how they actually apply what they've learned and just put that into the teams. So I will say for you, Kay, my only, what I've seen so far is the amount of education that you provide. But more importantly, I think Cindy was talking about mentorship, having someone that can be your ally and someone who can be your advocate. So if you connect with that individual that believes in the person coming into the organization and acts as a role model, there's that kind of, if you see it, you believe it. Having someone as your advocate is going to be a key driver, and that is effective regardless of whether they're a mid career changer to someone who's quite fairly new into the industry. So I would say that those are the two things that have worked really well for us. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. And so I guess we already touched up on Cindy's question as well. So do you consider mentorship crucial for an engineering tool belt?
I think mentorship is a very powerful thing. It's a powerful tool to have, because you're harnessing things like you're wanting to improve more in the industry, in the software development industry. Your communication skills are being heightened. You're anchoring your understanding of technical software and your knowledge really well. But there's also a state of empathy that you are also exercising as well. So, having the demonstration that you have been able to mentor, or you've been able to kind of, do workshops and help others, that is a great candidate that you're looking there too. But for example, I've had people, women who have had their own businesses, and they decided to go into software and made a career change, and their form of mentoring is being able to mentor their own kids, for example, and introduce their kids to certain processes. That's also another way of looking at things of that angle. As we say, we have to almost always kind of ask the question, what kind of examples can fit into those traits that we just saw before. So
yeah. Okay, thank you for your answer. So coming back to these qualities that you mentioned. So, I guess I still have this question, and you touch on it a little bit. So you mentioned, like, someone might have 4 years degree, learn all the kind of basic technical understandings and so on. And someone just did the boot camp. So, we're talking about all these, great skills like, willingness to solve problem, curiosity, coachability. But if the person technically just not getting it, you know what I mean? So can this person still be a great software engineer? So where is this kind of the ratio of technical and soft skills that we need these days to actually be successful in this career?
That's that's a very tough question, Yana, and I think that's a worthy question to ask. Let's see if I can answer it well for you.
That's why we're going live, so you're on the spot.
Hands are sweaty. I will say to that answer, what I find is generally when I see candidates coming into our program, when they don't get it, there's actually a little deeper seated issue that's going on. And that is imposter syndrome, not feeling like they're good enough, comparing themselves to others inside, their peers, because some of them may not look what they look like. There's not a majority of them; they sit in the minority. So that's one thing. If someone's already in the organization, whether or not you hire for tech and whether or not you hire for soft skills, what we know with tech is that tech can be learnt, software can be learnt, but it's how much grit, how much persistence, and how much you can kind of take on feedback and enact it. That's where it kind of where you have to identify it for far more. You can take a C-sharp developer, for example, and they could be really amazing. But the moment when you give them feedback and they don't want to take it on board, there's a problem. There is a problem. You could take a mediocre technologist that may not know C sharp, but man, they're passionate and they can provide you examples of when they've taken feedback and things have gotten so much better. So I think there's a good balance between the two, and it depends on what you need. So in your team, for example, you're a hiring manager, team, those who are listening, you're a hiring manager, and inside your team, there is an immediate need for a senior to have certain skills that are there. But the thing is, you're not going to take a senior who is an asshole. You're going to take a senior that is going to nurture, that is able to understand. That's where true skill set kind of come into play. So I think that's as a hiring manager, and I know that there's a lot of people as hiring managers see this, is that the attitude, your growth mindset, your coachability is something that's going to rise up more than the technology that is there. Now, if you have two candidates that are the same, they're both coachable, they both have really great attitudes, they listen, they empathize, the technology could be the deciding factor of whether or not they hire that individual. So that's just something to consider. It's very different to other organizations, but I will always say that the ability to build a rapport inside an interview and showcase your coachability is going to be far more, what's the word, memorable, than just, hey, do you know CI/CD, and do you know Kubernetes and C Sharp and all that stuff? Tick, 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 tick. They're all tick boxes, but what wraps around those tick boxes is you as a person and how you engage and what your soft skills and what your power skills are. We're not using soft skills, we're using power skills. Sorry.
Power skills, yeah. And I guess it's also come back here to recruitment process, because if the recruitment process require just do the coding challenge straight away, and I think like that's another massive topic that we covered in one of our previous live streams, like how relevant coding challenges these days. But yeah, so if you're just sending someone coding challenge without even talking with them before, this is completely different story, like you either solving the challenge or not. But hopefully, at least you have a chance to do the presentation and talk about how did you solve the problem. And I guess that's where your power skills coming into the place.
I would also challenge, what exactly are you trying to assess? So, for example, that coding challenge. Now, whatever the code comes back, the person that's reviewing that challenge will have specific requirements. They will have a bias towards, how you code and what they deem to be good practice, for example. And that, could leave it open to so many different types of biases to intervene in that. But if it is a coding challenge, you set the candidate a task, but you want to see how much they listen to feedback and you want to see how much they adopt it, then give them feedback and see how they go. That's a really great way. But I'm not really here to see how you code per se, but I want to see how much you can improve and enact on the feedback that I'm giving you. That is probably a little bit more valuable than the code in itself, because the code can be cultivated, it can be learned, and it can be adopted. And every organization that you go into, there's certain organizations that like to do things a certain way. Therefore, you might be in an organization for 5 years and you're working through that practice for 5 years. You come out of it 5 years and then you go for another role, and then they come back and go, hey, you didn't do TDD, what's going on? Once again, you're shut down. You're shut down because you're the product of, all the years that you've been kind of working on. So is that process valuable in giving you insights, or changing that up by going, hey, I'm going to give you some feedback. Let's see how much you understand and how much you adopt the feedback. That, I think, is a little bit more valuable than just saying a yay and nay to a particular coding challenge that comes through.
So, no, 100%. And so I guess you also mentioned a little bit, but so great software engineer, are they like the same in a different organization? Like if you're a great software engineer in one organization and you go to another, will you still be a great software engineer? or it's really subjective, depends of the obviously the environment you're going to work in?
It's really subjective. It is really, and the reason why I say subjective is I'm sure people who are listening to this may feel or have come in instances where this has happened. They might go to one organization and they're considered to be senior. They apply for another organization, but they're considered as mid-level. There are so many organizations that have different interpretations what a good software engineer looks like. But the moment an organization accepts you, it means that your values and the qualities that you're looking for is aligned to what that organization is looking for. So, for every application that you apply for, do not take it personally, because the biggest thing is that they're only looking for alignment between what they are wanting in terms of values to the person that's connected to it. So I will say it's very subjective. Here at MYB, we might say, hey, for our graduate programs, we don't do coding reviews at all. In fact, our technical interviews are mainly assessing abstract capability. That's it. That's what we do from that angle. Some organizations, and for the senior roles, they would do a coding role, a coding interview, for example, for that. For other organizations, that it might mean very different to what their qualities might look like. They might put technical skills right at the top, and the soft skills right at the bottom. For us, soft skills are right at the top, power skills are right at the top, but then technical skills are secondary. So in that, it's really good to do your research every time when you apply for an application or apply for an organization, to really understand exactly what the top values are. And look, if the biggest thing is to open up, if they've got a lot of applications, they're like, if you don't know Java, then you're at the door. Then that's also something to consider too. But I think the intention here is to open up to hiring managers and understand that we almost have to really be innovative in the way that we look at candidates, to see different types of forms of candidates coming through. And an example, and I will say this as an example, but I had a protege who is also a career changer. And she said to me, there are some software developers, and I don't know whether you all remember this, but a long, long time ago, there was this thing called the magic eye. And there was this whole, what is it, illustration, and your do you remember that, Yana? Your whole thing, see the picture underneath it, underneath this whole illustration, to find the mystery picture underneath the illustration. But the thing is that if you took it back to software development, there are software developers that look at something and they can get it straight away. But there are software developers that look at something and they have to look at it about 3 to 4 to even 6 times to see it occur. But neither one are bad or good. They're just different. And I think that's something that we need to talk about more, that these software developers exist, that they just aren't one cookie cutter, if that makes sense. So, yeah.
100%, Shan, 100%. So there is definitely no cookie cutter, but obviously it could be challenging to understand sometimes what is who is a great software engineer for your organization. And people, as you mentioned, hiring manager do need to put some effort in identifying those skills that they actually looking for. And guys, so I just encourage you to ask more questions if you have any questions, because we already more than halfway through our live stream. So if you have any questions, please make sure to post them in the comments. And I'm actually curious if anyone want to share their experience. Like, did you feel like in some organization you were like senior, and in another organization you were junior suddenly? So did you have any experience like that you feel that in a different organization, your skills was evaluated completely different? So please share it in the comments with us as well. And again, if you have any few more questions, don't forget to put it in the comments as well. Nicole is saying something. What are most important qualities as a team lead, and how to develop them based on senior software engineering role?
Nicole, that's a really good question. So what are most important qualities as a team lead, and how to develop them based on a senior software engineer role? Well, I think if you think about team leadership, the number one thing is being able to really look at your team as a whole, and really kind of go into deep, what are the core strengths and the characteristics of each and every one. Being able to see that. The biggest thing about being a team lead is that relationship. We know that, when it comes to, that level, it's about engaging on that relationship, really understanding intuitively how your team operates, what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, what are the gaps, and being able to nurture their career path. And I mean, there's one thing of just doing the work, but there's also the other part in being able to develop them even further if they want it, obviously. So I would say those are the important qualities. Communication, empathy. I think we all kind of talked about that, but also being vulnerable. As team leads, for some reason, there's a stigma towards team leads to you're supposed to know everything. You're supposed to be an expert. You're supposed to have the answers to everything. But once the team lead actually says, I'm learning as well, you will be very surprised on how many people open themselves up to you because they don't have to be the person in front of you to showcase, oh, yeah, I got this, I'm all good. But the moment when a leader says, I don't know, and I'm still learning, the moment your teammates actually open up so much to you because you're acting as a learner. So I think that's the biggest thing. Empathy, communication, coachability, being vulnerable is a really big skill as being an effective team lead because you're there to be their ears and you're there to enact what they need. But also to be strong in pushing off, anything that may distract your team overall. And in terms of senior software engineer roles, I think what's really hard, Nicole, is I'm not so sure whether you feel this. Maybe you're a team lead as well. I'm not so sure, but it's really sometimes it's hard to entertain what exactly is the next step for that senior role. Because the biggest thing is that you might hit a ceiling, but how far is that ceiling and how far are you meant to go with that? A senior or that next progression can look very different. And sometimes it's good to have a really honest conversation of how long do you reckon you're going to be here? And how long can we make this, your opportunities, worth your while? What are some of the areas that need to be cultivated so we can bake it into your experience at the moment? So it's really about relationships overall. I really truly believe that. And once you harness that, then you can start enacting and creating activities to bring on that engagement for that individual. I hope I answered that question okay. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think that's a valid point in terms of, senior software engineer and a team lead could be quite different career paths as well. So, it doesn't mean that as a senior software engineer, you would want to go to any leadership position as well. As you mentioned, some people just want to, keep growing their technical skills. And some organization, they might reach this ceiling and won't be able to technically grow further. And that's a great advice. Actually having this honest conversation in terms of how long, how long you would stay here doing the same thing.
And it's true what you say there, Yana, to be honest. I mean, there are some senior people, they just, they go into this leadership role, but then they realize, my goodness, I am so far away from the tools and I really enjoyed that. And then they revert back to that. I think it's kind of allowing that safe space for some experimentation. So for you, Nicole, if you do have someone like that, or if you're considering that, to trial it through mentorship, see if you enjoy it, to try through other things. So that's I think what you said there is very true. Having that open conversation is really important.
Kay is saying, I'm interested to look into your organization graduate program. I'll be contacting you on LinkedIn. Here
Amazing.
we go.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to connecting with you, Kay. I think that what I'm really proud, and Cindy's on the call. She's been in now, program well. But the biggest thing about our program is really enabling the individual to be the best that they can be, and that is having these rich conversations of people coming from all different types of backgrounds, but also being part of those conversations of changing the way that we also hire, and cultivating that as well. So yeah, I'm excited, Kay. I'm looking forward to it. So yeah.
Nicole is saying thank you for the answer. So so I'm always cautious about the time. So the one more question I want to ask you, and if someone have like a final question, please make sure to post it in the comments. But the question I have, like, to kind of, summarize our today's conversation. So we, we listed this, 4 skills that important for, for the software engineers to succeed in their career. But how do you think, how we, like someone, who maybe don't have much experience, how they can grow this, like, and develop these skills? Yes, so we can obviously easily develop coding, not easily, but, you can code and practice. But, some of these skills, like curiosity, how do you improve your curiosity if maybe you're not a curious person? So just guess overall, like, based on these qualities, like, what advice do you give to someone who want to become better?
Yeah, look, I would say that, if you look at whatever role or whatever industry that you decide to, look at, you really do have to do your research, obviously. And those skills are, quite, how would you say, it really comes intrinsically, inside you. That's what, really cultivating on those intrinsic motivations. So if we talk about external motivations, it's things like awards and all that stuff. But these traits are really coming from inside you. And I would advise that when we talk about the willingness to solve problems, start getting very comfortable with failing. And, very comfortable with experimentation, being, comfortable with the uncomfortable. That's where the willingness of problem solving comes into play. The amount of mistakes that you have are opportunities, but to be fine with that, to be okay with that, and to be able to learn from that. Once you go into those interviews and you are very conscious about those examples, that's something that you can kind of talk about. The willingness to problem solve is part of failing. And how did you actually rise from that? That's one thing to harness on. If we talk about curiosity, it's more around, does your eyes really light up when you go down the rabbit hole? Are there moments when you're actually asking as many questions as possible? So, the one thing about curiosity is also having the bravery to ask questions and the bravery to look not so smart, in inverted commas. The more you kind of put yourself out there and ask as many questions as you can, that's a form of curiosity as well. And going deep inside that whole idea of how do things work, and the more you practice that, the more it becomes more innate in that as well. To the third, Yana, what was the third one? Yes, coachability. Yeah, the coachability part is probably one of my favorites and something that I would definitely look at in every application that comes through. The moment where you do take on feedback, the moment when you give feedback, the moment when feedback was just so hard to digest. How did you overcome that? Having those examples is really important. So, the theme of this is being able to be conscious about the examples that you can draw from your experiences. And they don't necessarily have to be technically related. It can be a part of your life that you can cultivate on and therefore translate it in technology as well. And then the last one, which is about improving the industry. Now, once again, it doesn't have to be technically related, but it could be anything. I saw something that just was so complex and therefore I just made it better. There was an individual that had a hard time about this, but I did something to make it better. So it's all about really, if you have time, to start cultivating on it, but drawing those life experiences that can apply to your everyday working life that is going to be impactful and also effective when you go in there. So, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Shan, to sharing that. And I think a lot of things that you said really remind me Brené Brown's books.
Yeah.
So I think that would be another tip for everyone. If you never read the Brené Brown's books, maybe a good place to start and read something like Dare to Lead or Daring Greatly. Look it up. There is definitely a lot of these examples in about the bravery and asking for help and be brave to ask questions and so on. So if you want to be a great software engineer, read Brené Brown.
Yes, 100%. I mean, Brené Brown, absolutely. There's some really wonderful TED Talks as well that talks around not only vulnerability, but also being able to challenge your biases too. It's really interesting when we talk about biases, because if we think about if you think about going to a startup or a conference, and this startup CEO stands up in front of you, the question I have is, what vision did you see? Did you see a white male up there? Did you see an Indigenous person up there? Did you see a female stand up there? It's always the ability to break that bias. And I think what we're doing here is it needs to be challenged constantly. Yeah.
100%. We have few more comments coming in. Cindy saying, I can absolutely vouch for the protege program. It was a game changer for my confidence as an engineer. Here goes some smiles from Kay as well. Perfect. And I think we have last question that we're going to take tonight from Brooke. What are some ways that you can judge when a mid-level is ready for the next steps into seniority? What do you look for?
Man, Brooke, love that question. What is the difference between a mid-level and senior level?
While you're thinking about the answer, I have a quick answer for you, Brooke. You need to go and 1 second and watch this live stream. How to build your career path from junior to senior developer. Michael was talking a lot about like how he see each step. So if you want a bit longer answer, definitely check out Michael's live stream. But because we only have a few minutes left today, so Shan, what is your, I guess, short answer?
My short answer is that the ability to have the maturity levels of understanding at a more commercial level, with a senior, look, I'm not an expert at this, but in regards to mid-level, I know it is really about being able to deliver in code and being able to understand it from that angle of, how it kind of connects with what it is in front of you. But to have the maturity levels of how does it impact from a commercial level, the maturity on the people that sit around it, and being able to engage in those conversations is where there's a definition between a mid to a senior. That's my perspective between the two. So I hope that's okay, Brock. That's my short.
And I think even without knowing Michael, you answer pretty much the same.
There you go. We're all aligned. We're all aligned. And another shameless plug for you, Brock.
Brooke, have you subscribed to my YouTube channel?
Please.
Make sure. just to make sure I put even more plugs in there. And for everyone else who's listening, if you enjoy this video, if you get some value from it, please give me a thumbs up. Obviously, it encouraged me to keep going and encouraged me to bring such a amazing guests to my live stream so they can share their knowledge and share their amazing programs as well. So, and next week, Wednesday, we're gonna talk with next week with Leah. And we're gonna another female topic next week, overcoming the challenges faced by women in IT industry. So, we have a bit of a theme, I think, March theme about the women in IT. So, so next week, all about girls' power. So make sure, I guess, especially, Casey and Nicole, I will be waiting for you next Wednesday at 5:30 p.m.
And Leah is amazing. You should listen to her. I think there's some others that are coming up as well, but she's absolutely amazing. So definitely jump on board that. She's so good. Yeah, really good. Good story. Yeah.
Another shameless plug for Brooke. And even light come up. Thank you for you both for your energy and enthusiasm for growth and equality is infectious. Great job, really insightful. Thank you, Brooke. And Shan, the last thing, the little giveaway for our listeners. Yes, the giveaway is virtual coffee, the virtual coffee chat with Shan.
That's me. Yes.
So, who you will be taking for the virtual coffee chat?
Yeah,
From
I have to say, it's so hard for me to pick. So I'm going to get you to pick because I feel, yeah, it's so hard. Who do you think?
So I think like so you already know Cindy, yeah. So
Yes.
Cindy's already in the program. So Kay is going into the program anyway, so it's given. So she's gonna contact you and talk with you anyway.
Yes.
So and we have Nicole. So
Great. Nicole. Hi.
Nicole.
Yay. Amazing.
Um,
Well,
I think
go.
Nicole, I think I already connected with you on LinkedIn, but Nicole, just double check if you connect with me on LinkedIn. And I think Nicole was asking this question about going to team lead position as well. So make sure to message me or Shan, or I'll organize a group chat so you can guys catch up for this virtual coffee chat. And Kay, you know, I'll be watching you entering the program as well.
Amazing, amazing. Well, thank you very much, Anna, and everyone here. I've really enjoyed myself, and again, Nicole, I'm really excited to connect with you. Kay, obviously, have a conversation with you. But I'm always here to see our industry get better and better. And if there's any advice, or even what you've seen or sharing stories, please connect with me. I'd love to hear what your stance is and what your experiences are, because it just makes more of a enriching, and it involves my thinking as well, and that's why I'm here too. So yeah, so thank you.
Thank you so much. Oh, Nicole saying, "Wow, finally me! Thank you." Perfect. And I guess to put you on the spot and to basically end this live stream on something inspirational, positive. Do you have any favorite inspirational quote that you really like?
Oh gosh, that is really
Just putting you on the spot.
well, my only quote is something that kind of occurred today, which is, if it's me, it's up to me. And when I say if it's me, it's up to me. We have decisions that kind of come to us, whether it is representing who we are in terms of the industry, whether it is feedback that we're getting. If it's me, it's really up to you. You have control over it. That's all it is. So that's as simple as that. If it's you, it's up to you to make it happen. So yeah.
Perfect. And considering the things that in your control. And stop, don't put the responsibilities on anyone else. Yeah, 100%. Kay saying, thanks again. This was a surprisingly very good event.
Thanks,
surprisingly,
Kay.
all my events great, Kay. another shameless plug, yeah. I'm joking. So I hope I'll see you. I'll see you next Wednesday with Lee as well. Again, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you, Shan, for sharing all your wisdom with us. And I'll see you all next Wednesday.
See you, everyone.
Thank
Thank you
you.
again. Bye.